Hello everybody. A few weeks ago I asked you on my Instagram stories if you'd be interested in seeing me make a video about me decluttering my studio, and for the first time ever you all replied with 100% yes. So I filmed the process for you, but just to let you know, at the time my SD card was broken, not the same SD card as before, but another SD card was broken. So I filmed all of the clips on my phone, but I'm here back now with you on my proper camera. So that problem is now fixed. So my studio is in my house, and we live in a 2-bedroom semi-detached house, and we were always thinking we were going to be moving out of this house quite quickly into a bigger house, one with more space. And so over the past year, since I last decluttered the house, things have just gradually moved into my studio, and I've gradually moved out of the studio. So what I tried to do was section off a little space in the studio for all different tasks that I needed to do. So I had a printing area and a scanning area that was next to the computer area, so that I could go there and edit pictures and make prints. I had a whole one side of the room just for that. And then on the other side of the room, I'd actually moved my dressing table in there because I tend to wake up really early, and my fiance tends to wake up a little bit later if we're both in the house at the same time. So that meant with my dressing table being in the bedroom, that I couldn't get up and get ready and get on with work until he'd got out of bed because I'd be waking him up. So I moved the dressing table into here, and then I had a big chest of drawers, which is actually this one here in the background now. A big chest of drawers which was supposed to be for storage, and then 2 shelving units which was supposed to be for art supplies and books and things that were a little bit prettier to display and things that would be easy for me to grab when I needed them. So because all of this stuff was in this room, that meant that there was actually no room for me to draw or paint in here. There was no room for my easel, there was no room for my drawing board. The drawing board that I've got is quite big. It fits maybe A2 sized or possibly even A1, so that takes up almost a whole one of these desks here. So there was no room for those. I ended up actually working in the living room, and this just kept accumulating more and more junk. I had a big basket in here with a hairdryer, curler, straighteners. I had tan in here, tanning mitts, all of my makeup, things to do my nails with, in the bottom drawer of the chest of drawers. And that drawer was actually full of gift wrapping supplies, which weren't even for my business. I had that in a different drawer. These were for birthdays and Christmases. It was full of gift bags and wrapping paper and greetings cards. That was a full drawer itself that wasn't being utilised for making artwork, so that was something that definitely needed to go. In the top right hand drawer, I also had been hoarding receipts for some reason. That's something that I find quite difficult to let go of always, is receipts, just in case I need to return something or if I need to keep a record of it. So I had a whole drawer full of receipts. There was a lot of shopping receipts and train tickets and all sorts of junk in there. I have no idea why I'll keep in hold of that, so that is definitely something that needed to get cleared out. So the first thing that I did was I put some music on. I just put an acoustic playlist on YouTube and started emptying the drawers because they hadn't been emptied in so long and there was so much stuff piled up in there. They all needed cleaning out, so I did that. And then I started moving out the things that were not specifically in there for making artwork with. I had a massive Hello Kitty teddy that I'd had since I was about 14 or 15, and I had dolls. One of them's a Marilyn Monroe doll, the other one is a Scarlett O'Hara doll from Gone with the Wind. But I was struggling to display them somewhere in this room where they just looked really cluttered. Everything just looked really cluttered, so I took those out and then I started digging around and I found an old tripod. I've had this camera that I'm using now on this tripod for 2 years, and this is like a professional Manfrotto tripod, which is really strong, really durable. And that one was, I think I got that one for a tenner on Amazon, so it's really flimsy. So I got rid of that because I haven't actually needed that for 2 years. I have 3 storage boxes and one of them was full to the brim of notebooks. And I'm a girl who loves stationery. I've always loved stationery, so every birthday and people know that I love notebooks and diaries. Everybody's go-to when they buy me a gift is usually notebooks. So I've just accumulated so many of them and there was just no way that I could ever get through them all. So I went through the entire box and I took out every single one that I wasn't using right now, that had no purpose. I recycled all of those and just kept the ones that I was using right now. In the next box was a load of camera equipment that I'd completely forgotten that I'd put in there. There was a camera case, a lens, a flash thing. I don't even know where it is. It's never even worked. And I've had that, the little flash bulb thing that was for an old camera. I've had that since I was about 18. So that's a good 12 years and several house moves that I've carted this thing around with me. So I got rid of nearly everything that was in there because it was all for an old camera that I don't even have anymore. But what I did find in there was SD cards. But I was already halfway through filming the video, so there was no point in going back and using those. But that was a good find. I found 2 16GB SD cards, but I'd already ordered a bigger one, but at least now I've got backups just in case they break. And then in the smallest box was printer paper, and I'd totally forgotten that I'd put my printer paper in there and was constantly going through every time I needed to find some printer paper, going through all of my big drawers, when I'd actually put the printer paper in its own little box, which is really handy actually, because that's something that I need to refill a lot. And that's printer paper, not for artwork, just for printing labels or documents, things like that. What I also found in the drawers was some display folders of all my old artwork from 6 years up until now. That was really interesting to find, and I did waste a little bit of time flipping through the folders. I've got an A3, an A4 and an A5 folder. All of them had quite a lot in them and they're nearly full. So if you'd like to see all my old artwork, I could film that for you if you like. Over the past few years, I've started and stopped and started and stopped working on certain projects. I've got probably about 10 different projects on the go, maybe more. And I think one of the reasons that I haven't continued is because they haven't been in a designated area. So when I went through the drawers, I organised all of the bits and bobs that I had for each individual project and put them all into their own folder. So now I can concentrate on one thing at once, which is just so much better. So after I'd emptied the gift wrapping drawer, I turned that into an old artwork drawer. So now all of my old artwork is in the bottom drawer. I like it in there because I don't actually like the display folders that they're in, because they're all black and a bit dreary looking. So I put them in the bottom drawer, which I have moved into this corner here. So they're all nice and safe in there. There were a lot of prints and misprints all in sleeves in one part of one of the drawers, so I sorted through all those and got rid of all the misprints. I don't know why I was hanging on to them. I'm just such a hoarder when it comes to papery things. So I got rid of all of the misprints and I only kept the good prints. Another thing that I found way too many of is rubbers. I think I found close to 20 rubbers. If we're going to be sensible about it, you need one rubber. So I threw out 19 rubbers and I kept one. I started going through my pens as well, and I don't actually use that many pens. I have a white gel pen, which is the same gel pen that I've had for years, that's still got plenty in it, so I kept that. And I've got a couple of fine liners and a lot of Sharpies. And then it came to pencils. I took all of the pencils out of the tins and I laid them all down and I organised all of the Faber-Castell Polychromos, the Arteza coloured pencil set that they sent me last year. And I also have some Caran d'Ache watercolour pencils that I bought years and years ago. I've never used those properly, but they've all got the pigment of the pencil. It's like fully along the pencil, if that makes sense. I organised all of those together. I separated them into glass jars. That is another thing that I hoard. I'm just realising now, talking to you, what a hoarder I am. I keep glass jars just in case. Just in case you need them, you never know. But it turns out that I do actually need these, because I've organised all of those pencils into rainbow order. So there's one for reds, one for oranges, one for yellows, greens, blues, purples, pinks, browns, greys and blacks. But then the Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils gave me quite a problem, because the exterior of those pencils is all the same, apart from a tiny little bit on the end. So I couldn't figure out for the longest time how I was going to organise those, but what I did is I just split them the same way that I split my Sharpies, and that's into like reds, oranges and yellows and browns. They all go in one jar, and then the cooler colours like greens, blues, greys, they all go in another jar, and then pinks and purples go into another jar. Something that I didn't realise before I bought it was how big my printer was going to be, and the printer that I've got is almost the size of one of my desks, and it's so heavy. So I ended up moving that from one of the tables just to free up some space to the ground, and I moved my smaller printer also to the ground next to it and put my scanner on top of my bigger printer, which freed up so much space. And also because the printers are grey and black, it makes them a little bit less visible and makes the area much brighter and fresher, and it just feels cleaner. So next I tried to organise my office area, which is my computer and my scanner. I did originally have the scanner on top next to the printer, but I later moved that below. I just cleaned everything down. Then I went on to organising my drawers. There's now a drawer for frames, prints and printer paper, packaging supplies, which is boxes, tissue paper, my cutting boards, boxes and tubes, and then I have a separate drawer for paper and painting supports, like my MDF boards, some that have been primed, some that haven't been primed, sketchbooks, and then like I said before, the bottom drawer is all for finished artwork. For the dressing table, I decided I had to get rid of that completely, because that obviously has nothing to do with my artwork, and this room needs to be all about making art, so that I come in here and I'm like in the zone. You know, like anywhere else that you actually go out of the house to go to work, you have a sense of when you walk into that building, you put your uniform on, that now you're at work. And that was something that I really didn't have, because everything was just everywhere and mixed up, and home stuff was in the art room and art stuff was in the home rooms. So I moved the dressing table stuff actually into the garage, because I've decided I don't actually like sitting at a dressing table and doing my makeup. I just do it on the sofa. The dressing table was on a desk, a very large desk, so I actually took that to pieces and put that in the garage as well, because it was just taking up so much room. It was really unnecessary. It would be nice to have an extra space, an extra desked area, so that I can have an area for painting, an area for drawing, an area for packing, taking photos, but I'd need like the whole house. It'd also be nice to have an area for filming videos, but you've got to make do with what you've got. So at the moment, I've got one area that is for painting and drawing, and I just have to sort of transform the space as I go. But I do keep an easel in the corner of the room now, where I can display ongoing paintings if I'm drawing, and there's somewhere for paintings to dry while I'm doing other things. Something that I really struggled to find a place for was all of my books. I've got a lot of art books, and I've got some zines that I've bought from other artists, and my own sketchbooks that are ongoing. I just didn't know what to do with them, because I didn't want to put them in a drawer where they wouldn't be seen and they'd be forgotten about, but I also couldn't make them look nice on the shelves. So I just kept moving around this pile of books all day, and I've actually still got them. They're on the floor down here in this area. They do look quite neat there. I've stacked them from largest to smallest. They look neat enough, but that is still something that I'm not 100% happy with the placement of them, but at least they're organised. The thing that was the most satisfying was doing my shelves. So I moved my shelves. They were originally against this back wall. Well, not originally, but last time you saw them, they were on this back wall here. And now I've moved them onto this wall, which you can't see, it's just there. The 2 shelving units just from IKEA, they're really cheap. I think they were about £15 each. They're all completely open. So I wanted everything to be displayed there really nicely. Have all of my art supplies easy to grab, easy to see, and it's just quite inspiring when you come here to be able to see everything organised really nicely into rainbow order. That's something that I've always done and gives me a lot of satisfaction, is having my art supplies organised into rainbow order. So I stripped everything off the shelves and totally started again from scratch. I cleaned them all down, I dusted them all down. On the top shelf I've got my mannequin and all of my mixing mediums and brush cleaner and varnish for my oil paintings. On the shelf next to that, because all of those mixing mediums and things are all quite dull colours and they're in black and white bottles, I wanted some colour next to it. So I put all of my Sharpies there, which are organised into rainbow order. And then underneath the mixing medium shelf, I put all of the pencils that I spoke to you about earlier that have the full casing in the colour that the pencil is. I put all of those there and then put the duller ones next to that shelf, so the browns, the greys, the graphite pencils, I put those next to the rainbow pencils and underneath the Sharpies. And then on the third tier, they're all my paints. So I've got quite a few Winsor & Newton oil paints, the artist colours, so I've organised those as best I could into rainbow order also. And then I've also got some acrylic paints that I haven't actually ever used. Those ones are just from WH Smith's. So I'll put those next to the oil paints. And then on the shelf below that, I've got all of the paintbrushes that I'm using at the moment. And then the shelf next to that, I've got a little, it's actually a makeup organiser, and I've just put all of the pencils in there that were too short to go in the taller jars. And then on the bottom shelves, I've got the ugliest things, which is camera equipment, fixative sprays, and then a couple of Winsor & Newton inks I used last Inktober, and just things like SD cards and lens caps and things like that that are not so pretty to look at, but I do need to be able to see them all the time because I'm using them all the time and it's just handy to have them there. And my little mini tripod. I can't tell you how much better I feel and how much more productive I've been since doing this room. It was a weight, like a physical weight, it felt like, on my chest, on my shoulders all the time, that this room was so awful. Because when you're in my house and you come up to the top of the stairs, it's the first room that you see and it just always looked so awful. But now it just looks really spacious, really bright, really light, really airy, and it looks also really professional, especially with the shelving units. Now, I'm not going to do a proper tour of the room yet because it's not how I want it to be. It's not properly decorated because we keep thinking that we're going to move house. So I never buy anything for the room and try and make it what my idea of what my studio should look like, because I've always got in the back of my mind that we're moving. We have actually been here for 5 years now, so I should probably start getting some things in here to make it look nice and make it pleasurable to be in. When I've done that, which hopefully I'm going to start doing that within the next few weeks, when I've done that I will do a tour then. But for now, that is everything. I hope you enjoyed it. I feel a lot better. It's just really nice having a designated area that I can do my artwork in. That's what the studio is supposed to be for. And if I've got to transform certain areas for different tasks, like yesterday for instance, I was printing all day. So I turned the whole room upside down again because I had printing supplies everywhere and wrappers and rolling tubes. The whole room just turned into a print shop. And then today, because I'm doing this video today, this is now being transformed into a filming room. So that's why there's nice candles in the back and flowers. And these flowers here, they wouldn't usually be there. This is actually where I paint and draw. And usually these are on my stairs and in my living room. And these are also from the living room. I don't usually keep fresh flowers in here, but they do actually look quite nice, so I might get some next time I go shopping. So I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, I think is going to be a painting video, if I can finish the painting in time. Regardless of whether I finish it in time or not, there will be another video next Sunday at 5 o'clock. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for another one. Bye!